Hey, how's it going? This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show, and we have with us none other than Hall of Famer, one half of the greatest tag team of all time, the Road Warriors, Road Warrior Animal. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good, man, good. How's everybody doing?
We are doing awesome. Let me introduce you to my co-host. We have the Bearded Wonders, Zane Paisley, and the Morning Star, Will Huckabee. We're here with us tonight, sir.
All right. How you guys doing?
We are doing amazing. How long do we have with you tonight, sir?
I can give you a few minutes here. We're all right.
Okay, excellent. Well, Drew Skills is going to get started with you, so go ahead, take it away, Drew.
Well, Animal, obviously, your story has been out there for so long. A legend in the business, a Hall of Famer in the business, like we talked about, legendary tag team. So, a lot of times on the Undisputed Wrestling Show, what we like to do is go through, how people got their start and everything, but I think your story has been told. If you don't mind, could you go over just some of the highlights that you've had, some of the things that, stick out to you from your great career?
Well, I think, one of the things is, what separates Hawk and I from a lot of guys, everybody that breaks into wrestling goes in it with the same dream. And, Hawk and I were lucky that from day one, we got thrust right into working main event matches. And that was because of the timing of the business. The business was at an all-time low and probably couldn't have gotten much lower. I remember wrestling in 20,000 seat arenas where there was 200 people, and building them back up to 20,000 people coming in. And, and doing that helped Hawk and I learn our craft a lot sooner than would the normal guy breaking into business. So that there was a good memory. I remember my first time walking in the locker room at Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I see Sergeant Slaughter, Tito Santana, Roddy Piper, who else? Paul Orndorff, Dusty Rhodes, Ole Anderson, all these guys, and I'm going, holy crap! I seen you from TV. I kept telling somebody, I'm telling people, saying it under my breath, not knowing that when Hawk and I walked in the locker room, they gave us the belts. So.
Well, that's awesome. I remember, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just saying it was definitely a humbling experience, because here these guys that were my peers, and now I'm in the locker room with them. It was pretty cool.
For sure, and a lot of guys are lucky enough to get that same feeling when you walk into a locker room today. I've been lucky enough. You've been joining us at NWA CCW here in Indianapolis, and it's an honor to share the locker room with you, sir.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, man. I love coming back to the great state of Indiana and all over this country. I think it's a good thing because, for a lot of years in the wrestling business, Hawk and I were kind of untouchable. And I don't mean that in a conscious sense. I mean that we were so busy, we didn't have time to associate with the fans, and now I get to go around the country, see the fans, bring my shoulder pads. I paint up. If people want to put the pads on, they put them on for a photo. And it's a good way to, to give back to the fan who spends their hard-earned money, And it's one thing with the Hawk and I, man. We're two products of the street, and we appreciate how hard it is that people work for their money and their income, and we know that. We've known that all. And we must have did something right. Here we are 30 years after we broke in the wrestling business, and you still look on some of the wrestling websites and WWE sites and everything else, and they still got us ranked as the #1 team, and it just amazes me because I think tag team wrestling is such an art in our business that I think it's a loss.
Sure.
I just think it's something that our wrestling business needs to go back to and building more teams. And, and one thing that we're, Hawk and I are proven fact is that when the people like you, they like you. So it's definitely a good feeling.
Right on, yeah. And I agree with you. Tag team wrestling definitely is a lost art. You talk about when you guys broke in and coming in the locker room and getting those titles right off the bat. I mean, you guys definitely weren't just your average guys coming out, breaking into the business. You guys were a couple of monster men coming in big and jacked and something, with the face paint and stuff that no one had ever seen before. And people use the term often imitated, rarely duplicated. You guys were, the first mainstream people to do that. And then obviously several came after you guys. How does that make you feel to know that, you know, a lot of these teams, that, you know, became legendary themselves, probably wouldn't have been there if there wouldn't have been a Hawk and Animal?
Well, you know, I mean, imitation is the biggest form of flattery. I mean, one thing was, I guess, was good about it is that when Hawk and I broke in, we really had nobody to copy. You know, so we would be learning by, you know, trying things and trying moves that did work, trying moves that didn't work. And, you know, and a lot of the guys that tried to imitate us, like Powers of Pain and like Demolition, those guys were our friends anyway. So, I mean,
right.
like, you know, I went to high school with Barry Darso, Smash Demolition, and Warlord I knew, and before he got in the wrestling business, before he even got huge like Warlord, I was at his dad, he had a ring in his front yard. I would go over there and watch the guys work out. So, I mean, it's definitely a humbling experience. And, you know, even the new guys, the Ascension today, you know, it's not their fault that the office has them talk about Hawk and I mean, my personal philosophy, and it's not because it's me, it's because it's anybody. I would say this if I wasn't a Road Warrior. There's certain people in the wrestling business you just gotta respect what they've done and leave it alone. Like a Bruno Sammartino, like an Andre the Giant, like a Hulk Hogan. And I put Hawk and I in that category because there's over guys and then there's attraction guys. Like Sting, for instance. Sting's an over guy, but he's not an attraction guy. And what I mean by that is you can put any one of us, you know, Andre, Hulk, us, and Bruno in any arena around the world, and we're going to sell it out for you. You know, and it's a different status, and I think guys like that should be left legendary, leave them alone. Like Gorgeous George, guys that are way older than us, just let them go and let them go off into history. When you try to talk about it, I mean, when a team goes out and tries to talk about somebody, even if they talk about Hawk and Hawk's out here to defend himself, come on, what does that prove? Nothing. You know, you got to keep it in the realms of reality. You guys there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not sure if Drew dropped out. This is Zane Paisley, and thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. I did want to plug a few things with you. I am currently wearing my awesome animal shirt, and our listeners can go to Pro Wrestling Tees /Road Warriors to get some awesome merchandise, T-shirts, hats, even some underpants from the Legion of Doom. You know, how did you hook up with those guys?
With the Pro Wrestling Tees guys?
Yeah, to be able to distribute some awesome shirts and hats. And,
well,
and
you know, the guys called me up from Pro Wrestling Tees, yeah, the ProWrestlingTees.com and stuff like that, and they sell a great T-shirt. They're great. They're really cool T-shirts. I think they're some of the best designs ever made. And you know, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool and kind of weird at the same time when you see a kid wearing your underwear. I mean, you know, good to get your own grandson or something. But I didn't even know they were making kids underwear because I should get some of those for my grandson Jacob.
Oh, that would be awesome. You need to post that on your Facebook page.
Oh, I know, right?
Well, can you settle a bet for me? Is it pronounced Zubaz or Zubaz?
Zubaz.
Okay, awesome. Well, I had an opportunity to meet you here in Indianapolis at the NWA Circle City Wrestling event a few months ago, and I got an awesome photo with you, and I got to wear the shoulder pads and everything, and it was amazing. But as soon as you saw me when you were walking out to your table, you pointed at my Zubaz and gave me a thumbs up, and that made my night.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. You know, Zubaz was a thing we actually started that company in the back of one of our gyms, one of the gyms called Twin Cities Gym right outside of St. Paul, Minnesota. And, you know, I was in L.A. and at the time there was a bodybuilder, Mike Christian was a big time bodybuilder. And he had this stuff called Mike Christian everywhere. And, you know, back at that time, you know, my legs were so big from squatting and stuff. We could never find jeans or anything that fit good, and we were always wearing rotten old sweatpants. So we just said, hey, what can we come up with that we can make ourselves? And the birth of Zubaz came in. I mean, that's how Zubaz started, really.
That's awesome.
Awesome. My buddies and I love them. We've got our own little group called Beards and Zubaz. If you have an opportunity, Animal, if you can check us out on Facebook, we would love it. We're big fans, obviously, huge fans. Drew, you're back on. Did you want to ask another question with Animal?
Yeah, for some reason my phone is acting crazy on me. I was getting a lot of static there. But I caught the majority of what you said. I apologize. You're talking about Zubaz and making them in the back of the gym there. You guys really were the forefront of that whole, big superhero type figures. It was you guys, and then guys like Lex Luger and obviously, like you talked about, the Powers and Pain, and watching those vignettes back in the day, and those things you guys did with the powerlifting and the arm wrestling, and those things hadn't been on a national level before. Well, whose idea was those to come up with those different type of competitions?
Well, I mean, even the bench press contest we did against the Powers of Pain. I mean, that was they asked if we wouldn't mind doing it, and I said sure. I mean, why not? We all knew from working out together in the gym who was the strongest guys and who was up there to lift weights. But I got to give Dusty Rhodes credit. God bless him, God rest his soul. He saw enough of a vision on where to take Hawk and I's career. He used to call Hawk and I as pit bulls. And, back then, like especially the bench press contest, Dino Bravo was doing one up in New York, but he was using wooden plates. And I told him, I said, if we lift weights, it's going to be real 45-pound plates going on each side, probably about 5 or 6 of them. I said, it's going to be real weight. We're not going to do any phony weight on TV. And that's just the way we went about doing it, even back with the Zubaz at the time, we had ties in with the NFL. I had a friend of mine, Dan Johnson, was a tight end for the Dolphins, and we did some pictures with Dan Marino wearing Zubaz. Back then, MTV was a big part of the Super Bowl show, and Hawk and I got to wear Zubaz on the Super Bowl show. And Hawk and I were a walking commercial for him because every weekend we ran down on Georgia Championship Wrestling or at the NWA, we had Zubaz on. So it was like a free commercial every weekend. So we got to promote that stuff. But Hawk and I were always involved in all those kind of matches, man, whether it was a bench press contest or it was a cage match or a scaffold match or anything. Hawk and I were always involved in those things. I think it's because we were just the out-of-the-box kind of deal. I'll tell you one story about that bench press contest. I literally, Warlord, the night before, had given me a Samoan slam, and it landed on my head. In that one move, my left eye popped out, and I broke my orbit, broke my nose, fractured cheek, and fractured my skull. The next day, I did the bench press. So nobody knew it because I painted it over it. But I mean, I think we still ended up benching 545 that day or something. But still, with a fractured cheek and a broken nose and a blown out eye socket, it's still a lot of weight,
Oh, for sure. Most definitely. And I can tell you it was fun to watch. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Zane. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Okay. We are the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. We are talking to WWE Hall of Famer Road Warrior Animal. Thanks once again so much for coming on. I have a couple other quick questions for you. Very excited for your son, James, doing awesome out there for the Rams. Is he excited about moving out to L.A. with the team?
Well, I think for James' sake, you hate to leave a team. You hate to leave cities like St. Louis, who's been there dedicated and cheering for you week in and week out. But, at the end of the day, it's a business. And for James, it's going to be better because, just to be in L.A. for what he wants to do outside of football, it's going to be phenomenal for him. He put his house up for sale here in St. Louis, and it was all over the L.A. Times. And that's just a difference between L.A. and St. Louis. You know what I mean? L.A. just goes to the 10th degree to promote you and put something on TV, whereas other cities don't see the value in that, and L.A. does. So it's going to be a change, man. The guys are excited, but then again, they're also nervous because they don't know what's going on, and they don't know what's happening, and they don't have any schedule yet. So, it's definitely going to be a culture change. I told them be ready for cost of living is going to double or triple. LA is brutal.
Well, but he's one of the most noticeable stars on that team, and he's going to be in the second largest market, and they've only got one team right now. So it's like Eli Manning playing for the Giants, but there's two teams out there, so he's just going to be out there by himself. Obviously he's got his teammates, but he's going to do so well out there. We're very excited for him.
I'm excited for him too. The only thing I'm going to hate is I'm not going out to LA all the time. I'll tell you
that. Why not?
Oh, are you kidding me? That 110 and 405 and the Highway 5, they're nuts. They're so overcrowded. It's beautiful city, but overcrowded.
I wanted to ask, before I kick it over to the Morningstar Will Huckabee, because I know he's got some great questions for you. I just wanted to know your thoughts on, obviously, you and Hawk were the Road Warriors. You were Legion of Doom. But kind of later on, what were your thoughts on when they were integrating other members into it, like Draws and Heidenreich, Sunny, and when you went over to Japan, you had Power Warrior. What were your thoughts on when you were working with other guys under the Legion of Doom or under the Road Warriors name?
Well, people have got to understand there's reasons for everything that is done in the wrestling business. Power Warrior, pretty much because my partner Hawk lost his head and failed a bunch of drug tests, so he left and just went into Japan and pretty much left Ellering and I hanging at one time. That's pretty much cut and dry on that one. It's a touchy subject that I really don't dwell on it very much. But the other members of the Legion were, again, because due to situations beyond our control, you're contracted with a question, and they say, hey, we want to try to do this. So that's evolution of Draws came in and everything. As far as Hydrate goes, Hawk and Pay, and they said, hey, you want to do different with the Legion of Doom. And here's the reason why, guys. You got to understand. Hawk and I were either number 2 or 3 in marketing time for WWE, which means we sold a lot of merchandise. Okay, so they keep the Gravy Train going for the company. I mean, there's still some criticize on my marketing statement where between I we're selling like almost $1.5 million worth of merchandise this many years later. And that's usually from the UK and overseas, so it's a very powerful thing. And of course, in the name that we had, extremely popular because we were some of the few guys that went on the world, from Kuwait to Bahrain to Japan to Korea to, Australia to everywhere. Hawk and I have been there. So, in that fact, that's why they tried to, they were trying to let the L.O.D thing down. It's pretty much the way it was, But then, we figured out the other guys pretty much just weren't cutting to be a member. Like the thing with Draws did out, Heidenreich couldn't do it, and we realized at the end of the day there's no sense even trying anymore.
Yeah. What was it like working with Sunny in the L.O.D 2000? Did you think that she was an asset to the team, or what were your thoughts on working with her?
Well, another thing that the office wanted to have happen. I mean, the problem was that she had her own issues herself. It really don't fit. Hawk and I really didn't need any kind of manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't the right fit. I mean, she almost got her eye poked out a couple times, and it's a good thing she spiked. We would run around like crazy, and so that was like a couple deal, and it stopped. Vince McMahon put an end to that.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for speaking with me, and I'm going to pass it over to the Morningstar Will Huckabee for some questions for you. Thank you so much once again.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mr. Ellering is Animal. Thank you once again for being on the show. here's my first question. You know, you and Hawk, the story's well told. You guys are from the south side of Chicago. You're built from the south side of Chicago, which is a very blue collar area. It's known for being the workplace and the home for a lot of working families and stuff. How did your upbringing in Chicago and later on living in Milwaukee really blend in or mold into your wrestling style?
Well, in going from there and then going to Minneapolis, Minneapolis and Chicago are two different. It's like night and day different. But I think the blue collar side of things makes you appreciate things when you do success. I think when you're blue collar, that you have to take things for granted. And things are not handed to you. And if you want, you have to go achieve it and go take it. You just can't wait for it to fall in your lap. Hawk and I, we did a lot of things we weren't proud of over the years. We did some collecting, we did some stuff we shouldn't have done, and at the end of the day, we judged and said, man, we got to do something positive in our life. And then Ed Sharkey, who wrestled Harley Race and trained Jesse the Body Ventura, was a bartender we all bounced at. There was a bar called Grandma B's, and Sharky's a bartender, and there's Rick Rude, Barry Darcel, Hawk, myself, and Scott Norton are all working at the same bar. And we all got into wrestling, and we all made it. And it was by chance that we happened to go in that night, and Ed said, let's do a wrestling camp. And we said, we'll do it. And we did. And it was something that we did. Hawk used to do interviews all the time and says, you mean I can beat people up and get paid for it? And it's pretty much the way it was in the beginning, And it just evolved. Just like when we got the name Legion of Doom. Everybody asked, where'd you get the Legion of Doom name? I said, watch a Super Friends cartoon anytime. The guy comes and says, meanwhile, back at the Legion of Doom, that's where we got it from. We were watching cartoons like a couple of big kids.
Now, here's my next question. Because, like Drew said at the beginning of the interview, the Road Warriors, without a shadow of doubt, have always been named the greatest tag team in the history of wrestling. And with that moniker, it's very easy to get caught up in the limelight and the celebrity and fall to the wayside and have, your quote-unquote own demons and stuff. But, throughout your entire career, there's never really been anything bad said about you. There's never been any scandals or any drama and stuff. How did you stay away from the trouble that a lot of your peers and stuff ended up falling into?
Well, listen, don't think that, we didn't have any of our issues ourselves. Hawk had, everybody knew Hawk liked to elaborate on partying every now and then, and he had a few demons in his closet. But at the time, we were working probably 325 to 3 days a year. There was no time to mess up when you're the main event. You had to go to a different city every day, drive to that city a lot of times, and there wasn't a lot of time to goof around and ruin your career. And if you didn't ruin your career, you were done. And we were young, and we appreciated it from the very beginning. And I think having a guy like Paul Ellering with us helped us, because Paul was a very level-headed, smart man that kept Hawk and I on the track. And that helped us a lot.
And I'm glad you brought up Paul Ellering, because I wanted to bring him up. A lot of times, when people speak about managers in professional wrestling, you always hear about Bobby Heenan, Captain Lou Albano and stuff. And even though a lot of people appreciate Paul Ellering, you don't really hear a lot about him. What was so great about Paul Ellering, and what set him apart from every other manager at the time?
Well, I think the difference with Paul, the other names you just mentioned, Paul was a literal shooting real manager for us. Paul would recommend things to invest in. Paul booked our flights. Paul would call the promoters and say, hey, the Road Warriors are available. You want them in your city? Bam, and book our events for us. Paul did all of that, And I guess right now his daughter Rachel is going to wrestling camp, and I guess she's phenomenal from what I hear. Rachel Ellering's doing well. She just trained up in Calgary. Now she's coming back to the States. And Paul, Paul being a junior national champion powerlifter himself, that's how we knew Paul Ellering, because we knew lifts from, living in Minnesota, because that's where Paul's from. But yeah, Paul's a manager. Probably one of the best.
Now, one last question before I hand it back to Drew and stuff. Being a lifelong tag team wrestler and stuff, what is your opinion about the state of tag team wrestling now? Not only in the WWE, but also Japan, TNA, and the Indies, if you keep track with all that.
Well, I do, and sometimes I see better looking gimmicks. Just like when I always laugh when I go to Indianapolis because I see the guys that, I forget their name, but they're the cop gimmick. They have the police things on, right? They crack me up. But there's less gimmicks. Everything in tag team wrestling today seems to be force-fed. And I mean that in a way that tag team wrestling needs to it should become natural. It should be a natural thing. Like Hawk and I knew what each other was doing without even talking to each other in the ring. I could look on his face and I could say, okay, by his mannerisms and the way he's walking, okay, flying tackle's coming, or he's going to do a power slam or a press slam. I knew what he was doing, and he knew what I was doing. And I think that's a lost art today. Today is so much about showmanship and all the other crap. They don't let the guys really get to be who they are. And I think in the smaller territories, like the Indies, you get a better quality tag team than you do on the big TV. Because they work harder, and they get to talk when they do an interview. It's coming from the heart. It's not scripted out like it is for everything from WWE. Not that the WWE guys don't work hard, don't get me wrong. But, they're trying to revive it. I see that. I see where they're trying. I just think they still are going about it the wrong way. That's just my opinion.
Animal, the tag team that you're talking about are the police department. It's Officer Rod Street, who we're a big fan of. He's been on the show, and Deputy Dave. So definitely watch out for that.
They crack me up. Anytime I see something like that, crack me up. They remind me of a team years ago for Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Dale Veazey and one of the other guys were Georgia State Troopers. And that police gimmick's been around for such a long time. It's doing it the right way. That was probably part of the problem with Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns and those guys. That gimmick was so hot as heels, they should have never touched it and turned these guys babyface because they never really got to get over as heels. Now you have a problem with people believing that Dean Ambrose can even beat anybody. It's really strange, man, the way the business is turning. And that's, I think part of the problem is having a pay-per-view every month. It's hard to do any angles or get anything going on it,
Yeah. Hey, before I pass over to Drew to wrap everything up, can you please give us a quick What a Rush and the Undisputed Wrestling Show or Angry Marks Podcast Network or something like that so we can use it as a drop?
Yeah, sure. You ready?
We're always ready.
All right. Hey, this is WWE Hall of Famer and legend from the Legion of Doom. That's right, L.O.D, baby. Road Warrior Animal. And I'm listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Oh, what a rush.
Thank you so much. I'm going to kick it back over to Drew Skills. Thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you for that plug there, Animal. Greatly appreciate that. And speaking of plugs, like we talked about earlier a little bit, we're lucky and honored to have you here in Indianapolis, NWA Circle City Wrestling. But I'm going to see you next month where I defend my Heroes and Legends heavyweight title against Abyss. And just so happens that night, the general manager for the night is none other than yourself. You're going to be the general manager of Heroes and Legends.
That's right, man. I look forward to that. It's a Jason Maples production, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. I look forward to that. But listen, anytime I get in the state of Indiana or the Midwest, it's always going to be a great event. I love going there. Some of the greatest fans, and like I said, man, some of these indie promotions have some of the better wrestling events going on in the U.S. Man, I love it. I love going. That's why I love going to indies. It reminds me back where I started and. The guys work their rear ends off, and I tell you what, people better get their tickets now because the shows are phenomenal.
Most definitely. That show is going to be huge. It's the 6th big fan fest that we've had. This one's actually in the Coliseum there at Fort Wayne, so we've got plenty of space. Going to be a huge event. Like we just said, you're going to be there as the general manager. The Rock and Roll Express is going to be there. They're vying for the tag team championship, so they're going to actually be having a match. Tatanka is going to be there. He's facing the Congo Kong, a friend of the show. Troy Miller is going to be there defending his lightweight title. There's so many guys that are going to be there. Mr. Anderson or Mr. Kennedy, depending on if you're looking at his membership in there, his WWE career. Billy Gunn's going to be there. There's going to be so many people that's going to be there on that show, and I'm really looking forward to it. And like you said, people better get their tickets early, because I know I talked to Jason Maples just the other day, and he was excited because he said when they put it up on Ticketmaster, it only took 33 minutes to sell out the first 2 rows.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost sold out completely, to be quite honest with you. The guys you mentioned are great guys. You got, me as Hall of Famer, and you got future Hall of Famers there between, Rock and Roll Express and, Anderson someday will be in there and everything else. And, there's going to be a great event, man, and guys are climbing the ladder of success. And listen, people need to come support these guys. This is a stepping stone for going to bigger and better things in the wrestling business. WWE is growing there, but you got other companies like Knox Pro growing, another company called Revolution out of Vegas growing. So there's going to be more than just one big wrestling promotion in the U.S. here coming pretty soon. So this is a good thing, man. People need to come out there and check it out, because it's definitely a fun, family-friendly atmosphere, and the people will definitely get their money's worth. And you get to take pictures. Hey, come on down there. They can hold titles and see the Rock and Roll Express, and put on my shoulder pads, which is any department store like Walmart or Target. You see my action figures hanging up, same pads. Good for the fans to put them on, and that's what it's all about, man. It's giving back, giving people a good show.
I can attest to that. It was awesome.
Most definitely. And then we also have, Bobby Fulton's going to be there. Tommy Rich is going to be there. Two Cold Scorpios, Sabu. It's going to be a huge event, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I can't tell you, Animal, we're so happy to have you on tonight. I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us tonight. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug, sir, that you got coming up?
No, man, I'm just, everybody out there that wants to do any bookings, you can go to my Facebook page, find me there. It's my Joseph Laurinaitis page, and it privately had done that way. But I look forward to going around 3 times. I got scheduled up, so from May or June, anybody wants to do any bookings, do that. But I look forward to March 26th. You're right, man. That's the star-studded event. I hate to get to Grace, Indiana, and check it out, and have a good time and good old-fashioned wrestling, man. I can't wait.
For sure. And I think I speak for all of us tonight as far as the host, Zane and Will, man. It was an honor and a pleasure to speak with you tonight, sir, and we thank you again for coming on.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.